Hello and welcome to this Emmanuel Lasker video. So the title, what did Tarrasch think of the Reti opening? You may be wondering, well, why is this Emmanuel Lasker video and I'm talking about Sigbert Tarrasch, or Tarrasch, however that's pronounced. Well, I had a viewer request a video with discussion on the Reti opening. And the topic came about because there's a famous chess book written in 1935 by Dr. Sigbert Tarrasch, and he claimed that the Reti opening was not a good chess opening. I think he even said it was a completely faulty system. And in that discussion, he basically went over this game that I'm about to play, where Richard Reti, plays the Reti opening, which is named after him, and he plays against the second world chess champion, Emmanuel Lasker, who was the world champion longer than any other world champion in history, from I believe 1894 to 1921. So this game was played in the famous New York tournament of 1924. So Lasker had just lost his title to Jose Capablanca. And also Richard Reti would go on to die 5 years after this tournament at the age of only 40. So, he died young. So let's get back to this game. Dr. Sigbert Tarrasch, who wrote The Game of Chess, which is supposed to be one of the best chess books of all time. The book was written in 1935. I have a copy, an updated copy that was printed in algebraic notation in 2004. But Tarrasch was one of the greatest chess players in the late 1800s, and also one of the greatest chess teachers of all time. So let's take a look at the opening. Here is knight to f3. This is the Reti opening. And Tarrasch claimed that this was a profound system that Reti plays, but faulty. Now, one thing to remember, this was written back in the 1930s. And since then, there's been a lot of updates to chess openings. Now we have computers that find different plans in openings that were once thought not to be very good. And you notice how Magnus Carlsen, the best chess player in the world at the moment, or the highest rated player, he's been playing all kinds of openings, even openings that aren't considered that good. Now, he is such a great player that he can get away with it, but he finds new ideas, maybe on his own analysis, and also with the help of computers these days. So the Reti opening, this was played knight to f3. The response was d5, taking a share of the center. If your opponent's not going to claim the center himself, you might as well do it. So now we have c4, and this is the Reti gambit. Now just remember, because Tarrasch, who was one of the greatest chess players, in that period in the late 1800s, probably one of the best chess players of all time, probably in the top 100, maybe even top 50. But just remember, thinking was different, over, about 100 years ago or a little bit less. So unless you're a expert level or a chess master, you can play different openings. If, a grandmaster says that an opening is not that great, that doesn't mean you have to quit that opening. You can play an opening, try it out for a while, and see how the opening, transitions into the end game, or excuse me, into the middle game and then end game, and just see how you do with that opening. But one piece of advice: don't try an opening and have one or two bad games and then just quit. Give yourself time to play that opening for many games, for a few months maybe. All right, so we had this c4 move attacking the d5 pawn. The pawn is defended, and now we've transposed into an English opening Caro-Kann defensive system. So, already we've transposed into a different type of opening. So I would say, I don't think the Reti is a faulty opening. And as we'll see after I go through this game, I was able to, before I got into this game, I looked at the accuracy rating, and it looks like both players, the former world champion and Reti, who was one of the greatest players in his time period as well, they played at a lower level, like a 2,000, 2,200 level, and maybe 70 or 80% accuracy rating, so they did make mistakes. So here we have defense of this pawn. The bishop is developed outside of the pawn chain, so now this pawn can be pushed here, and the bishop won't be blocked in. So now we have this interesting g3 move, and it looks like Reti will probably fianchetto both bishops. So knight is developed, the first bishop is fianchettoed, and the king is ready to castle. And now we have the other knight developing, backing up the knight on f6, which is now under attack after this bishop fianchettos, helping to control the center. All right, and at this point, it looks like the game is about even. A very slight edge maybe for black, but it's pretty even here. So e6 is played, and now after this book move, apparently the game is dead even. And we see here that we've gone from the Reti opening to the English opening. So I would have to say that you can definitely take most of Dr. Siegbert Tarrasch's advice, but saying that the Reti opening is a faulty system, I don't know if I would agree with that. And we see here that we've transposed into another opening. So saying that the Reti is faulty based on this game, Tarrasch is obviously a way better chess player than me. I'm not even a chess master. So still, leave your comments out there what you think. I'd be interested to know. But I would just say that, remember, if you are reading a book or information that is given by a chess master from the past, especially when it comes to opening theory, a lot has changed in the last 50 years or more, especially now that we have computers helping find great moves in the opening. So here we are, 8 moves now, 10 moves in, and the game is still about even. So both sides are just developing. Black does look like they have maybe greater control of the center here. So finally, a pawn captures pawn here. And then after the recapture, we have an open c-file. So players will probably fight for that. So the rook moves to c1, getting ready to fight for this open c-file. And now, interesting move, the first inaccuracy of the game, queen to e7. What is bad about this move? Apparently rook to e8 would have been better. And now, if the rook tries to move there now, the queen is kind of in its way. Maybe if we go back here and see what moves could have been better than this queen to e7 move. So the computer recommends rook to e8 as the best move, just centralizing that rook. Also, well, now it's saying bishop to e6. So that's interesting. Dropping the bishop back is another possibility, I guess, to guard this pawn. All right, well, let's see how it continues. The inaccuracy is played. Now white has an edge here. Will he be able to take advantage of it? It looks like e4 is the best move. And that's probably why the computer recommended retreating that bishop back, because now after this move, the bishop comes under fire if e4 was played. But in the game, we had rook to c2, perhaps getting ready to double the rooks after this queen moves out of the way. So, an inaccuracy as well. So once again, they want this e4 move, attacking the bishop and the pawn here. So the game continues with a space-gaining move on the queen side here. All right, so now we have a4, preventing black from gaining any more space on the queen side, pushing that pawn, maybe attacking the b pawn, and an inaccuracy, at least, the computer claims that was an inaccuracy. Once again, that e4 move is preferred. So, I guess we could take a look at this. If e4 is played, and then you might have capture. Now, here the recommendation, either capture works, but maybe that's a little bit better, attacking the bishop. Now, here, it's kind of interesting. What would happen if this pawn is captured? Because there's two attackers here and only one defender at the moment. The recommended move is just to retreat that bishop back to e6. But what if we had something like this played? Well, apparently that's a mistake. They recommend attacking the bishop, then knight captures. Oh, wow. Knight captures g3, or knight takes f2. I guess the problem is, if the knight captures knight here, it would be attacking a rook, but this knight could capture the bishop and be attacking the queen. So maybe another reason why that queen move was not so good. But anyway, back to the game. We had this move. Now h6 is being played, giving that bishop an escape square. Interesting move here, also claimed to be an inaccuracy by the computer. Here we have a battery being created, lining up on this pawn, aiming up towards the king side. So we have three attackers on this pawn, but three defenders at the moment. So the game continues with rook at f to e8, centralizing the rook. As a counter, Reti doubles his rooks up on the open c file, which is usually good, but you have to remember, if you're going to double up rooks on a file, that could be an advantage, but not as much of an advantage if you can't infiltrate into the position. Here, a rook cannot move forward, can't go here, here, here. There's no place for the rook to go along this rank. So these doubled rooks are being held off, especially with this bishop here, which is covering that square. So the game continues with a retreat of the bishop, and now we have an interesting knight retreating move. At this point, it looks like black has over a pawn's equivalent advantage here. So the game continues with knight jumping forward, attacking the unprotected pawn. So that is captured. And now pawn is captured. So we have an exchange. Rook is captured for a pawn. and what? Knight. So game continues with the rook getting ready to fight for that open file. So now we have the knight jumping forward. Queen repositions itself to guard this pawn along with the knight. And now a little space gained on the king side, a little escape hatch maybe as well for the king. So the first blunder of the game. So Emanuel Lasker blunders here. It's not a terrible blunder because now, the game is about even. White just has a slight edge here. But what would have been better? Apparently queen to d6 may have been a better move. Queen to d6. Which, allows this rook to have the half open file. It puts a little pressure on this knight, even though at the moment that knight is protected pretty well. So if that is played, then the computer recommends what? Bringing the king towards the center, then b6 maybe, or h5, gaining space on the king side. But what happened in the game? We had h3, the blunder by the former world champion Emanuel Lasker. But things are about even here. So rooks exchanged, and apparently that was not the best move, a mistake. So Emanuel Lasker is not playing the best moves here. A queen capture would have kept the edge with black. Let's see what happens next. And there is a threat now. Two attackers. Well, I guess there's two defenders there. So the game continues with the knight dropping back out of the line of fire here. Well, let's go back and look at that. So apparently that's not the best move. Knight, what do they recommend? So knight at 5 to g4. All right. Well, that would be interesting. You target the knight here, and with this battery lined up here, you start putting pressure on the king side. If the knight captures, which is recommended, knight takes g4, and now what? Oh, wow. Bishop takes g5, or sorry, d5 is possible, attacking the queen. So the game could have gone that way. But we have knight to f3 played in the game. And now bishop retreats to help guard this, maybe prevent that threat of bringing something here. But it's not as strong now. So we have knight jumping forward. The best move, queen retreats back, and that's the best move as the knight was attacking the queen. So the game continues with the king jumping into this hole, and space is gained with an h5 pawn push. The game continues with an interesting move, although computer says this is a mistake. You are creating a battery, attacking this pawn along with the knight, and there's only two defenders. So that is ignored, and the best move is played, h4, and it looks like black has the edge at this moment. So we have a capture here with check, so that is handled by the recapture, and now pieces are being exchanged. If we look at the current position, we see both sides both sides have the bishop pair, but there's an imbalance. Rook for knight and pawn. So let's see, 4, 6 pawns, oh, 2 pawns. So material is even, but there is an imbalance, and the rook is on this open file. So the game continues with the best move being found by Emanuel Lasker. He lines up on this knight, which can't move, or the bishop will be picked off. So we have a capture, and that is a mistake. Apparently, almost a game-losing mistake. What should have been played there? Apparently, queen to f3 would have been better. So bringing the queen up here. Ooh, because if that rook infiltrates into the position, and if we had a capture and the rook is here, yeah, it's not looking too good. This could come under attack if that knight is picked off. So a lot of arrows there, I know. So let's see what actually happened. We have this mistake move and a missed opportunity. Apparently rook to d8 would have been better. So rook to d8 would put more pressure on that knight. So let's take a look at that. So this move was played, but if rook to d8 was played, now what? E3 apparently is the best move to help guard that knight. But if we look at the evaluation, black does have a pretty big advantage here. And now recommended is what? Just picking off this d3 pawn. Yeah, and then black's advantage is even a little bigger, I guess. All right, back to the game. We have a mistake, and then a missed opportunity. And now the bishop drops back, maybe getting ready to reposition here. Block the scope of that rook. And apparently this is a great move, according to the computer. What does this do? I guess it gives the king a little escape hatch, in case we have, well, even if the queen went up there, yeah, I guess it is possible. The rook couldn't block because of the bishop covering here. So the game continues with a queen trade being offered. Apparently that's an inaccuracy. The trade is avoided. The queen drops back, guarding the back rank. Keeping the pressure here on this knight, but apparently this is a mistake. Queen to d6 would have been better, centralizing the queen a little more. So the game continues with a pawn push here. All right, so instead of capturing and then allowing this passed pawn, we have an attack on the queen, an inaccuracy. Apparently it would have been better to capture that pawn. So the queen repositions, lining up on the opponent's queen. Now the rook and queen create a battery, applying even more pressure here. So we have 2 defenders, 3 attackers. So I'm guessing that we have to push this pawn forward. But then, well, let's see how it goes. Queen trade is played instead. Pawn protects the knight. Now we have a capture and passed pawns on the queen side. So the king tries to run towards the center to help in the coming endgame. Capture, recapture, and now bishop keeps an eye on this h3 pawn. So after this repositioning, well, this is a mistake. Apparently bishop to c4 would have been better, because now this can just be captured, it looks like. But that is not played. Apparently Lasker wants to keep pushing his pawn forward. King moves to the center. Oh, and now this comes under fire here. All right. its pawn is protected. Now we have an attack, and bishop is repositioned here, protecting the passed pawn and this pawn on d3. So the final moves of the game, we have rook checks, king runs towards the center. Apparently that's an inaccuracy. Check again, and a blunder, this time by Reti, and it appears this is a game-losing blunder. What should have been played? Apparently king to d2 would have been a better move. But, then you have rook to h6, which would start applying pressure to these pawns over here. And the king is, kind of far away to be able to help. All right. The game continued with the rook to e2 move, the best move in the position, attacking this bishop. Bishop retreats, and it's under attack again. So now, after repositioning of this bishop, we have a counter repositioning of the bishop, freeing this square for the advance of the passed pawn. And this is where Reti just resigns here. So the game ended here with Lasker winning. The computer evaluates this at over 4 points advantage. Even though if we look at the material, is material even here? We have 6, 9, 10, 11, 8, 9, 10. So material is even, but imbalanced. This pawn is going to be very dangerous. Is it unstoppable? Could be. Let's find out. But before I go back and see how the game could have ended, let's see what the computer says. So apparently Reti played 79% accuracy. Lasker played 84.2. And this is what I was talking about. 2,000 rating for Reti in this game and 2250. And both of these players were the top players in the world, so maybe they just had a bad day. We have blunders by each player, missed opportunities, mistakes. So, Tarrasch, a great chess player and teacher, but maybe he didn't choose the best game to analyze the Reti chess opening. Obviously he didn't think it was a very good opening, but I would say over the years, the Reti opening has proven to be, a fine opening. I don't think there's anything wrong with playing the Reti opening. You can try it out yourself. It's a flexible opening, starting out with the knight to f3, and then you just see what your opponent does. But as we saw in this example, there can be many transpositions where you start out with the Reti, and then this game went into the English opening, and it kind of transposed into other openings. All right. Well, feel free to leave comments as always. Oh, one thing, I guess I should go back and see how the game could have ended. So, what could have been played here after bishop up to d5. Now, if this pawn starts running, and that's the best move, it does not look good. Black is pretty much winning, and that's with the best move. So if we go back, what other option is there? And a5 is the best move. So I guess if that's the best move, but then b3, the pawn is running. Bishop to a4 is best. But now, what do they recommend? Rook to a2, attacking the bishop, and the bishop is pretty much forced to give itself up, to stop this passed pawn. So capture, then what? Capture, and h4 or bishop to c1. But at this point, it's going to be very hard to stop. Well, let's look at the material. +2 for Lasker. It's going to be hard to stop this extra rook. So that rook is just going to start annihilating everything. You can't even drop here to protect this pawn. So here, h4 apparently is the best move. Or bishop to c1. But if we go there, rook captures. And you see now the rook will just start mowing everything down, stopping the pawns. Okay, well, let me know what you think about the Reti opening. I would say, today, unless you're a expert level, 2000 rated or higher, the openings probably won't matter as much. Now, some chess teachers, they recommend that you learn your openings because you don't want to just have a disaster right in the opening and you don't even make it to the middle game or the end game. So, pick one good opening, whether it's the Reti or any other opening, and just stick with it for a while. And give the opening a chance. If you see that you're just having continuously bad games with that opening, you may want to change. But make sure you check when you're actually losing. If you're losing right out of the opening many games, okay, you could try and figure out what you're doing wrong in that opening variation. Or maybe that opening's not for you. But if you're just playing an opening, but most of your games you're losing in the middle game or the end game, well, then you just might need to work on tactics or end game play. All right, let me wrap it up here. Feel free to leave comments, like and subscribe to support the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for watching and have a super chess day.